Hello and welcome. You're watching India Today eMind Rocks. I'm Chaiti Narula. Mental health is one of the most ignored topics in India, and the lockdown has finally taught us how mental health needs attention. Not just mental health, mental well-being on an everyday basis needs your attention. With all these social distancing norms and with the lockdown, people getting confined into their homes as well, not going to work, we were often left alone with ourselves and with our thoughts. If you were mentally fit, you got through with ease, but for the rest, it did take a toll. Let's now understand how we can look after our mental health just like we look after our physical health as well. Joining me today is Dr. Sameer Parekh, one of the biggest voices in the country who's championing the cause of mental health and one of the most passionate professionals who's taken it up upon himself to create more awareness about mental well-being. Dr. Parekh, welcome and appreciate you taking the time out for us.
Thank you. And a big thank you to the entire team for keeping a topic on mental health, because I think you guys in the media need to keep talking about mental health and prioritize mental health, because it's not just professionals like me who have a role to play. It's you who need to take the voice and create an outreach for the benefit of the society.
Oh, absolutely. It's just a mutual effort. And I think we all recognize this finally as well. And hence, we are also seeing, Dr. Parekh, more dialogues about mental health taking place across the board as well. And especially India Today has always been at the forefront of carrying these dialogues forward as well. Let's begin, Dr. Parekh, by asking you first. Why is it, Dr. Parekh, that this subject is so hugely ignored in India? Why is it there is so much stigma attached to something being wrong with the mind? Every one of us needs mental well-being, and you're somebody who champions this cause. Physical well-being just seems to not be enough if the mind is not well. Why is it that we are so clandestine when it comes to talking about this?
Lots of factors, Sheti. Our biggest problem is that we've never had enough experts. So what has happened is that our experts are densely populated in some areas and hardly in the other areas. We've not been able to ensure that primary healthcare and mental health interface happens. Put that together with the portrayal of me through media, entertainment media, that has happened over the several decades around mental health, from comedy to psychopathy to violence and horror. So that has played its own role. And we've not done enough awareness that people are able to understand that mental health is very much like any other problem, any physical health. And because the facts are 1 in 5 people in the world would suffer from mental ailments. And the fact is that depression is the single largest illness in the world. But if we continue talking about it, we normalize the conversation in a way that two young people can actually have a conversation and say, okay, hey, I've been having some stress issues and I'd like to talk to you. Or a young professional can talk to his colleague or boss and say, I'm having sleep disturbances. I might need to seek help or a medical help. The level of conversation we need to happen. Only then we'll be able to give the right support to people who will be
Yes.
struggling.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that you have been conducting such successful programs when it comes to mental health advocacy as well from your side, which is creating a huge impact as well. We as media are now taking the plunge and trying to normalize the conversation as much as possible. And we are seeing many people come forth, and seek the right kind of advice from professionals as well. One thing that we have noticed with people who are coming forth or being a little reticent about seeking support is the fear of it being very expensive to spend on proper mental health care professionals. Would you like to break that myth? Is it a myth? Is it a reality? What is it?
No, that's not true. I think we'll also need to understand, like any other profession, or let's say, especially in healthcare, you have a spectrum of services available, from government, public sector to private sector, from organized and unorganized to individuals to the corporate. And that difference would always be there. But if you compare the cost of treatment to most countries in the world, you would realize that it's a big myth that mental health treatment is expensive in India. In fact, add on to that, if you currently look that with telemedicine being allowed, if you look at the data, then one of the largest chunk of treatment that is being provided right now by most hospitals is happening in mental health, because more and more people are able to seek help because it is cost effective, effective per se, and because of digital India, the outreach is also improving. So I think this is a myth that it's expensive in India. I don't think that's true.
If you could give our viewers some tips how to stay mentally fit, just things that we can do on a daily basis to make sure that the way we look after ourselves, our body, we're working out on a treadmill, we're on a certain kind of a diet, we eat at a certain time, we sleep at a certain time. Some things that we need to do every day to make sure that our sanity levels are in check. And all of us need that at some point or the other.
The most important two aspects: one, support system, and two, basic joy of living. Bring humor in your life, bring creativity in your life, enjoy the moments, enjoy the successes and the downside, but most importantly, invest in relationships. I think if nothing else, COVID has taught us that all that matters is people around us. It's our connectedness with each other is where our mental fitness is all about. Because when we struggle, we'll need the support system. When we are doing well, we'll have somebody to celebrate. At the same time, positivity, a good belief system, problem-solving attitude, healthy lifestyle, say no to substances, have a good sleep-awake pattern. Once we are out of COVID, do a decent digital detox as well, and go out there and, explore the world. So, relationships, humor, enjoyment, breaks, productivity, positivity. That's how you keep your mind fit.
And there's also one more problem of social media. There's too much of social media conformity that we're seeing amongst youth as well. I have to look a certain way. I have to, do a certain thing to be able to feel accepted. There's so much of mental stress that ends up causing a lot of anxiety that causes in the youth as well. How would you advise them? And also social media, the other problem is twofold. That many people who are trying to seek mental health care professional on social media, somewhere getting trapped with so many quacks that are available all over Instagram and Facebook and wherever you go. These are the two issues with social media. How would you think that today we can resolve these issues?
I'll add one more issue, which is negativity. Understand this, and this is especially for all you young people listening. There is a digital self, which is a portrait self. Not your true self, but what you are portraying to the world. And then there is a real self that you are. The portrait self and the real self need to be as close to each other, and you shouldn't care at all about how people think about you. That's when your portrait and real self become the same. Likes don't matter, views don't matter, how many followers are there don't matter. You should be able to like yourself, and until you do that, social media would be a pressure on you. The moment you accept yourself the way you are and you don't worry about the feedback, social media is fine. The second component about, it's like fake news. How do you know whether a news is fake or not? You try and understand the source. Is the source verifiable? Is the information coming from a knowledgeable person? Same here. So if somebody is saying that he or she can solve your mental health issues, you would check what the credentials are. I mean, if this person was saying that they could solve your cardiac problems, you would double check. So whether it's a cardiologist or a diabetologist or a mental health practitioner, check it out. And the third one, which is I think the most important thing, stop the negativity on social media. I think trolling or negativity and cyberbullying are amongst the saddest reflections of our times when it comes to social media. The only way to solve it is you bombard social media with positive messages. Positivity needs to drown negativity, because it's that positivity which stays in our environment, in our social milieu, which can decide upon whether we feel good about ourselves and the society or not.
Hmm. You know, when we're talking about youth, and this is a youth summit, so we have a lot of youth that are tuned in and were listening to you at this point of time as well, whether they want to admit it or not. From you as a psychiatrist, how would you deal with the substance abuse problem as well? We are seeing a lot of kids, younger ones, getting addicted to whether it is cigarettes, whether it is alcohol, whether it is other substances as well, which are banned as well. But somewhere, you know, they're not being able to cope with their anxiety. They're not being able to talk to their parents. They not don't have the wherewithal to see a mental health care professional. And what happens is they get into this whole entire world that they create of their own with their loneliness and substance abuse. How can one battle that? It's such a big problem.
Substance abuse needs to be seen like a problem, and that's it. No justification. It doesn't matter whether your friend suggested, it doesn't matter because your role model does that, it doesn't matter because you saw that it's a cool thing on media, it doesn't matter because somebody gave you faulty information that, oh, because it is legal in the city A, it's okay to have in city B, or because somebody tells you it does this positive impact on you or that positive impact on you. That's all not true. Substance abuse has the potential of taking over your life. And the most important thing for a young person should be you control your life. But when you take a substance, the substance takes over you. So you say no every time, no matter who is offering it to you. And if you can't say no, go and seek help. If you think you've got habituated, go seek help. Transparency, openness, communication. Talk to an adult, parents, or a professional. But you say no to substances. It's your life that matters.
That's absolutely true. And you know, a lot of youth today are complaining about loneliness because in this age group, when you have 5,000 social media, Facebook friends, but in reality, you don't have those many. That is a big problem that they are battling with today. And all of them complain of, most of them rather, complain of loneliness as well. And what would you have to tell them? Do you have to tell them that who is not lonely, or are there any ways in which one can cope with that kind of loneliness as well?
You're absolutely right. We create a false perception about our own social milieu and network by looking at a number of followers on social media networks and handles. That's not the truth. The only thing that matters is people with whom you can share, talk, grow, enjoy. And that happens in your physical personal space. Yes, during these times, it'll be digital, but then let it be video conversations, lots and lots of conversations. Conversations over texts, always. Words over emoticons, always. Right? Always. And physical meeting over all other forms of meeting, always. And that's how you develop a bond. That's how, so even today, for all you young people, who are your best friends? Your school friends. Because you spend genuine good time with them, and that lasted with you. But for the young generation, make friends at work, because we'll end up spending a lot of time at work. So make sure that you have a solid support system at work. And that's the only thing that matters. Friends with whom you can talk to, who are available to you, not who are at some distant follower list of yours, that if you were given a face test, recognition test of your own friends or followers on your own handles, you would probably miss out recognizing most of them.
Absolutely. And you know, social media is also one big addiction as well. And the substance abuse also comes down to addiction. So, how, in your professional opinion, can one identify these signs of addiction? And then how can one go ahead and treat addiction as well?
If you feel compelled to spend time, even when you could have done something else, if your mind is constantly thinking, has the next beep happen or a next post happen, and you are not able to stay focused on something else, if you can't go to sleep and switch off your phone, and if the first thing you need to do is to check up, and between all your breaks, that's what you do, that's a problem. And young people, the only thing that matters is you will live a quality life. And for a quality life, you will need to balance your digital time, your social media time. My suggestion, don't let it be around the clock affair. Let it be only during certain moments. Decide on those times, structure it, and stick to that structure so that it does not intrude into your own space. And like I said, meet people, do quality engagement. All these texts and emoticons and all, well, not really communication.
You know, now with the lockdown as well, and not just the lockdowns, in some parts it's even lifted, but still there is a medical advisory in place that you cannot go out and meet people as well. How should one chart their real life interactions? Because now all the real life interactions are happening over calls, video calls, or texts, or social media for that matter. Then how does one really go forward and make those real connections like you're talking about?
So ideally, those real connections are already there. And now you are continuing with your communication using this time. A lot of young people who've been talking about this, all I have to say is imagine if these times would have happened 50 years back when you did not have that smartphone. How would we have managed it? So use it properly. Like I said, your best case scenario, video calls. Can't do it for some reason, audio calls, but text as less as possible because it takes away a lot from your expressions and emotions. And emoticons, leave them for good.
Okay, and emoticons, GIFs, the stickers, if you're watching this, everyone, all of that, it doesn't just end at emoticons, really. Now, you know, a lot of youth are at the moment facing a very uncertain future. If you see with the kind of CBSE results also that have come out, and everybody seems to have gotten 100%. So there's going to be an influx of students coming out in colleges. Most of them are not going abroad as well. So there's too much of anxiety around admissions. What next for my future? What can these students do now to really allay their anxiety? Some of them might even just go into depression because they had these lifelong plans charted out academically, and that all is not happening at the moment. So stress and anxiety, how do you keep it at bay at this point?
This is a learning moment. Life is giving us a teaching moment here. We may plan, but plans don't always work out. Most people's plan A have never worked out. It's the plan Bs and plan Cs that give you your success. More importantly, right now, in spite of all that's happening worldwide, it's a level playing field. It's not that you as a student in our country are struggling with an uncertain future. The same's happening anywhere else. So it continues to be a level playing field. Second aspect, this uncertainty is real. And you and I can do nothing about it because we truly do not know how things will shape up in the near future. So what you can't focus upon, you don't think about it. You celebrate your success. You keep doing whatever you have to do. When the doors would open up, back yourself. It's your ability, your effort, your motivation. This short little gap that's happening in time is not going to affect your career. You know, a cross section in life is never going to have a longitudinal impact on life. Remember this.
Absolutely. Also, there's a lot of pressure these days amongst youth to compete, to be better than the other, to come first in class, to excel in sport, at the same time excel in this, that, and the other as well. A lot of parents are overburdening their children as well to go ahead and prove themselves. Now, kids sometimes do not want to prove themselves. They just want to relax. They just don't want to do things that they are not very good at and focus on something else which is not happening. What do you tell students like that? Because there's always that kind of pressure that is building up between them and their parents who are unable to understand each other. How do they deal with this?
Two different aspects. Aspect number one, there is nothing like first. You may be first in your class, may not be in your standard. First in your standard may not be in your school. First in your school may not be in your zone. It's an endless number. All you need to do is you just keep raising your own performance benchmarks. You know, the Federers and the Tendulkars and the Virats of the world became who they became because they kept on upping their own performance. They weren't quite cared about what somebody else is doing somewhere else. That's how you go forward in your career. And when it comes to parents, I truly believe parents are one of your strongest support systems. I think young people need to have a fabulous relationship with parents. I'd also insist all parents to have an open communication with young people. Give them the space to express themselves so that they can be who they are. And we don't end up telling them what to be and what not to be. So if that's both sides need to work upon, it's essentially a communication issue. It's never been a generational problem. It's always been a communication problem. Have transparent, honest, open communications, and you will realize you're still on the same team.
Hmm. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say depression, actually, a lot of sadness that because people don't know the difference between depression and sadness as well. There's a lot of sadness that a lot of people go through with breakups that take place. This boy rejected me, that girl rejected me. All of that is always going on. And once I was, in fact, listening to you address one of the sessions where you said that why don't you go ahead and celebrate a breakup just like the way you celebrate your birthday, because the birthday just comes once a year, breakups come more often. How would you tell the youth to really go ahead and deal with these relationship problems that they are facing?
I think most importantly, maintain your own dignity. That's, I think,
Yes.
the most important thing. Maintain trust. As a young person, you will have ups and downs in your relationships. You may think you were, you know, made for each other. And
Hmm.
then you realize when time moves forward, your visions don't match or things don't match. That's life.
Hmm.
Just respect the no, respect boundaries, respect trust, understand that, like in life, some things work out, some things don't. If they don't, that doesn't mean that the world is coming crumbling down. Every moment in life is a teaching moment. So, like what Chaiti said, I actually say this to young people. Learn to celebrate even your breakups, because at least in a certain age group, statistically, you might actually end up having more breakups than birthdays, and that's life, right? But you learn from it. But remember, you maintain dignity at all costs.
And I want you to now tell our viewers who are watching, and most of them are youth, as you already know, what will happen to them if their anxiety, stress, or even for that matter, depression, if they know they have it, if they're not in acceptance of it, if they do not seek medical intervention, what happens if you don't look after your mental well being?
See, let's be very clear about it. Let's say I start having initial sugar level fluctuations and I decide not to go to my diabetologist. And I wait for a couple of years till it has caused a mess in my body.
Hmm.
It's very similar to what will happen in mental health. If you feel anxiety issues are happening, you're feeling a lot of stress, you're feeling a continuous depressive or a sad phase, it could well be a medical issue. You must talk to someone. You have digital treatments available, you have counselors and therapists available, you have physicians who are trained available, you have psychiatrists available, you have a family and support system. You talk it out. I've always maintained this: unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. When you feel something, you express it, and never hesitate to seek help. Seeking help is a sign of confidence, never a sign of weakness. So if you were a sports person and if you were struggling, you'll seek help from a coach to improve your performance. That's not because you were weak, but because you were confident enough to recognize that there was a problem which needed a solution. Same applies to mental health. Mental health requires all of us to give it the right importance and prioritize it. It's for your and my benefit. If we need a happier society, a positive society, a society that cares for each other and has empathy, then we need ourselves to prioritize mental health. And I have consistently believed that adults, my age group, has largely failed young people. We really have not given you the right supply of role models. My generation surely hasn't. So what you do is you become your own role model and become a role model for your peer network, and especially the younger ones coming generations after you. So you change the narrative, because we've largely failed you.
And one more thing, and let's make sure we tell them not to blame others for their problems. Let's not blame anybody else because of something that has been wrong and somebody else has done that particular wrong. But let's accept and take charge of ourselves as well, because at the end of the day, you have to take care of your own self. Nobody else is going to do that for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like playing cricket. You can't blame the pitch. You have a bat in your hand, you bat, right? That's life. So there are two kinds of problems: internal locus, external locus. External is what is not in your control. What's not in your control, you can do nothing about it. Don't blame it, accept it. But what's in your control, you maximize it. That's your success. The more effort you put in, the more improvisation and upgradation. You know, I see all young people around me keep upgrading their softwares, keep upgrading their phones whenever a next version comes, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth. At my age, you even lose the count of math. Upgrade your own self, upgrade your skills. That's the key.
Absolutely, Dr. Sameer Parekh. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm sure everyone who's tuned in today has really woken up to realize how important this topic is, how neglected it is. And like Dr. Parekh says, if you have a problem, go ahead and seek help. It is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. Keep that conversation alive. Unmute yourself. I thank you very much, all of you, for joining in. And Dr. Parekh, of course, for taking the time out as always.
Thank you.